Here we go. Howdy, hey everyone. You can call me Lincoln, or Little Yoga Man, and I draw Fakemon. In fact, I started my own region, based on Germany and the surrounding areas, way back in October. Skip ahead to now, where I've recently gotten 1,000 subscribers. So today I'm gonna go back to where it all started, the starters. I've learned quite a bit since then, and if you ask me, they could be improved. Some more than others. So I'm gonna redesign all of them. But first I want to thank you guys, the viewers, for sticking around with me. I couldn't be here without you, so as a thank you, I'm giving you guys something that I've seen a lot of requests for. That's right, we've got a Discord server now. Come and join. It'll be a lot of fun with as little human sacrifices as possible. Now without further ado, let's hop in. Now going in order that I showed them, the grass line is first. The grass starter, Cotton, is based on the Pyrenean ibex, fitting in with the extinct animal trope of the grass starters, as well as sheep and deer. It's got a really sheltered, stay quiet and get what you want rich kid kind of attitude. My biggest gripes with it is that it doesn't really look like a grass type. I mean, sure, it has a leaf tail and is green, but other than that, not really. I mean, if you make it monochrome, then you would have no clue as to what its type is. And two, the horns. Even though I wanted them from the beginning, they just look tacked on. So to fix these, I'm going to add more leaf motifs and focus on the horns looking more natural. And I'm also going to give it some clothing-like patterns to really drive home the rich kid idea. I'm starting off how I always do, with a rough, blobby outline. It's going to change eventually, but yeah, a more innocent face than the original and more petite-looking feet, rather than the big clunky ones the original has. It has cotton in the front and in the back, but it looks more kept together instead of more blobby like the original does. Doing the outlines now. It has spots on the side, which you'll see why in a bit. Adding the colors, or at least I thought I was. Just adding some things. So, here is Cotton, the cotton Pokemon, from Cotton and Fawn, a grass type. Cotton often live in large herds. People have used the cotton grown on it to make clothes since ancient times. I think that the biggest improvements are in the face. The original Cotton doesn't look bad, the new one is just much, much better. Now evolving it into Flowick, even though it's only the second design, I think it's the first bad one. It brings the rich kid idea in even more, with Cotton looking like a cravat and horns looking like slick backed hair. However, the problem lies in the pose. It looks stiff despite being in a dynamic pose, and the lack of a neck makes it look blobby, like it's all just one thing. And the plain circle eyes aren't helping either. Add on the problem that Cotton has with not looking like a grass type, and yeah, there's a lot to be improved upon. The new Flowick will have spikes on the horns to look like thorny bushes. It'll also have more luxurious looking cotton, and of course, the neck. So I'm starting off by giving it a more petite looking pose. Like I said, horns on the spikes on the horns. Sorry, I can't English today. To look like bushes. It's got a more triangular eye, so that it looks more whimsical and less like a real animal, I guess. Also a much cuter face. Don't worry, it gets less cute as it evolves. I thought that these really weird shapes for the back legs were pretty cool in the original, so I decided to keep them. Floppy ears as opposed to the upright ones the original has. Here is Flowick from Flower and Frolic, a pure grass type. Happier Flowick produce higher quality cotton. Because of this, farmers treat them like royalty, causing them to skip about and literally jump for joy. Looking at them side by side, the darker green horns and hues really sell the grass type more. I think I actually like the ears and pose on the original better, but in general, the new one is definitely better. Now, before I show you what it evolves into, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about Flowick, like why it's so pure and happy. Well, that comes from its sheep inspiration. It's a sacrificial lamb. After all, it's usually the purest, whitest sheep that gets sacrificed. Now, remember how I said that the extinct animal is based on the Pyrenean ibex? Well, the Pyrenean ibex is the only animal to go extinct twice. It first went extinct in 2000 when a tree fell on it, fitting for the grass type. However, in 2003, it was cloned and brought back to life, only for it to die shortly after due to lung failure. Even though cloning animals is getting slowly more and more popular, the clones unfortunately don't live very long due to imperfections leading to organ failure. So a pretty good setup for a ghost type. This is Tufix, at least the original. Right off the bat, there's a few things that I'd fix, starting with its weirdly rectangular head. Also, say it with me kids, it doesn't look like a grass type. In fact, it looks even less like one because the cotton is gone and the green just looks like gross mulch, so more poisonish. Also, the horns look weird, so more leaves on the horns will look like a thorny briar. Finally, I'm adding a new inspiration, chronic wasting disease, or zombie deer disease, which slowly eats away at a deer's brain, so I'll add skeletal bits that reference that. Okay, so for some reason the blobby bit didn't save for this one, so we just get the rough outline. It's going to be much taller and lankier with hooves spanning up almost its entire leg. So, yeah. Thorny horns, and I really like the decayed looking eye, and so I decided to keep that. Adding the colors now, which is basically just Flowix colors, but darker, and instead of the cotton, it has this purple smoke that looks really cool. So, here's Tufix, from Teufel, German for devil, Hex, and Ibex. The withered Pokemon, a ghost and grass type. Citizens have reported sightings of Tufix wandering in the forest at night. Many report seeing only its greening eyes and green coat, dubbing it the green-cloaked devil. However, despite the appearance, it has no ill will. If you see multiple wandering the forest, it's usually just one, cloning itself with its ghostly powers. It has a new signature ability called Scapegoat, where it creates an unstable clone of itself using ghostly energy, and setting up Substitute, but hurts the attacker for 1/8 of the dealt damage, though it costs 50% of the user's health rather than 25. Looking at both of them side by side, I like the new one more. It looks more like an Ibex, but the bone limbs might be a bit too much. Who knows, maybe I'll change it later. Moving on to the line that changed the least, the Fire line. The OG Mouseblode looks fine, but it doesn't really look like a fire type. Don't worry, this changes later, unlike the Carton line. It looks more like a cartoon bomb, with the tail being a fuse, so we could like the fuse. However, fire starters with flaming tails is all too common, so it'll just be some fur. This whole line is based on German car brands, with Mouseblode being a Volkswagen Beetle, so I'll give it a pose similar to a car jump. And it being a beetle that gets fast, oh yeah, it gets fast, spoiler alert, could be seen as a reference to Herbie. I remember Herbie? I remember Herbie. So the biggest changes will be the tail fuse, pose, making it look more saturated, and getting rid of the literal rat ears and making them more cartoony. I'm starting off with the basic shape, which is going to be a much more dynamic pose than the original one, which is just kind of standing there. It's jumping with its mouth wide open, almost like it's jumping into someone's arms, keeping the teeny tiny little feet that resemble wheels on a car, and the spot on its side is supposed to look like a window, while the face pattern on its front face, I guess, is supposed to look like a windshield. He's really cute. I really like this guy. The colors were hard though. Here is Mouseblode, from the German spelling of mouse and explode. Pure fire type. Mouseblode are very skittish creatures running away when frightened. However, when cornered, they superheat their paws by running in place and press them on the assailant. Comparing the two, the new one looks much cuter with bigger eyes and a lot more energy. I think it looks great. Now, if you evolve Mouseblode, you get Accelerat. I know the body plan looks more like a rat rather than orb, but it still has the original bomb shape on its neck. Remember that. The fuse has just about reached the end. It's much faster now and resembles even faster cars, perhaps a Mercedes. It even has little racing stripes on it, and the spots on its feet that resemble wheels. In fact, if you think about it, if the feet are wheels, then you could see the legs as suspension. For improvement, well, not much. The biggest problems are the pose and the bubbles on the eyes. It's supposed to look like goggles, but they just kind of look weird. Instead, I'll give it patterns that look like sunglasses. After all, middle stages are supposed to be the cool, edgy teen phase. And as for the pose, yeah, that definitely needs fixed. So I'm starting off with literally just drawing Accelerat, just with a better pose. It's getting more Mickey Mouse triangle cartoony ears instead of the weird, like, rat ears that it had earlier. The feet are mostly the same, and the eyes are a bit bigger and rounder than the original, so it looks a bit cuter. The fuse hasn't gone all the way down now, it's only just barely starting. So it looks more like a fuse, with the part past the furry bit looking like it's burnt up. Here's Accelerat, a pure fire type. Now, this is one of my favorite names. It comes from accelerate, but you get rid of the E at the end and boom, it has a rat now. Contrary to Mouseblood, these Pokemon are very overconfident. 2-pack settle disputes via foot races. The fastest Accelerat is respected as the leader. Side by side, the pose on the new one is much better. The different colored legs are a nice touch, and the legs burnt up fuse tail looks more like a, fuse. And the final Pokemon of the line is Vermibon. Out of all the Pokemon in this video, I think it needs a redesign the least, at least out of the final forms. It's now a sports car, or maybe even a NASCAR, and its head looks like a racing helmet. It's fire electric type for a few reasons. 1, electric on average has the highest space speed by a lot. 2, flames and lightning are 2 of the most common race car patterns behind basic stripes. And 3, it's 4 times weak to ground, which is ironic because it, runs on the ground. It drives on the ground. Its name is a reference to the Autobahn, the fastest freeway on Earth, reaching speeds of 125 to 50 miles an hour, and is in Germany. To reference this, it has a yellow stripe on its back to look like those road lines. The bomb shape on Accelerat's neck has now blown up, as well as lighting its butt on fire, so it looks like a video game boost in something like Mario Kart. In terms of redesigning it, well, not much. My biggest gripes are the ears, bubble goggles, and weirdly triangular head, all of which I'll fix in the redesign. I'm starting off by drawing a basic outline for the main regular Accelerat, but less of a top-down view and more of a side view. That was another problem that it had. It was top-down, so it looked a bit weird. You couldn't really see all the details. It has little rat claws that it runs around. The original one looked like it just had gloves, but the new one will just look like it has patterns that look like gloves. Its face also resembles a burning asteroid entering Earth's atmosphere, and I decided to add some flames on the feet that you'll see in a second. This fire bit took me so absurdly long, it took me 30 minutes just to get the fire to look normal. Here is Vermibon from Vermin and Autobahn, a fire electric type. After evolving, Vermibon can reach speeds of up to Mach 1. A special chemical on their fur creates friction when moving at blinding speeds, creating intense heat and electricity. A special membrane protects their eyes when moving at top speeds from dust. Looking at them side by side, they aren't all that different. I still like the redesign more, with the things that I mentioned earlier, plus the butt fire looking less like an afterthought, and the addition of the fire on the hind legs, looking like rocket boots. But even the original isn't half bad, and the plasma looking shiny is impeccable. It has a signature move called Speed Bump, doing more damage the faster you are, but once you get too fast, you begin taking recoil damage. And finally, the water starter. It's horrible. I mean, the first stage is really cute, but as it evolves, you'll see. If you saw the original video, you know. But let's see the first stage. So this is Kublau. It's based on bears, specifically grizzly bears, since they live in Germany. I mean, they live on land and can swim. Their primary food sources is fish, so it fits the semi-aquatic theme of the water starters. Not much else to it. I mean, the starters are supposed to be simple. And to be honest, I don't really know how to improve it. Maybe make its ears raindrop-shaped? Yeah, let's do that. Again, for some reason, this one didn't really save the blobby portion. But yeah, there was actually a design before this that I used for the colors in the second stage. And then after I did that one, I just came back and redesigned it because it looked really bad. But yeah, biggest difference is its head is more upright instead of down, and raindropped ears. It has bigger paws, which you'll see why in a minute. It has patterns that look like waves and, you know, it's just really cute. I really like this guy. Here's Kublau from Kub in Blau, German for blue. Pure water type. Kublau are very energetic Pokemon, wrestling with their siblings and learning how to swim and fish from their parents. They are able to hold their breath for up to 3 hours. Side by side, I actually don't know which one I like more. The redesign has better proportions, but the original just has a super fun personality. Now, like I said, when it evolves, it gets bad. Let me just show you. This is Netursa. It's based on how bears fish, similar to net casting. That's it. The pose is awkward, the mouth is both weirdly shaped and way too big. The rest of the face makes no sense, especially the eyes. Why are they like that? Neither do the patterns. The pose makes it look bipedal even though it's not. And it has a super shallow concept that doesn't even connect to the region at all. Screw it. This is beyond saving. I'm just making something entirely new. So this is Ursa, from Ursa, Bubble, and Submarine, a pure water type. These Pokemon live solitary lives near frigid lakes and rivers. Their thick fur keeps them warm, even when swimming in the freezing cold water. Usually, Ursa don't make emotional connections, but should you feed one, it'll warm up to you quickly. Looking at the two, and yeah, the redesign is miles better. Not even close. And yet, Netursa doesn't hold a candle to its evolution. An art crime so severe I should be locked up for 10 to 15 years for it. Something so bad my eyes just about bleed whenever I see it. Think I'm exaggerating? No. Behold, Grizzling in all of its hideous glory. Everything is bad. The concept, bad. Colors, bad. Proportions, face, tacked on looking chains and blades, patterns, bad, 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 and bad. Apparently those knives are fishhooks. Do you see it? Because I know I don't. I'm using a new concept. Well, I say new, but I've already used it. But I didn't like the old concept owner anyways, so I'm gonna scrap it. Some may remember the second regional variants video. In that video I showed Keltician Cubchoo and Beartick, based on tardigrades, aka water bears, and how they can endure extreme environments. Also, since they are microscopic, I combined them with atoms. Basically, if you want an explanation, watch that video, because everything there is included here. Also, yeah, Keltician, Cubchoo, and Beartick are scrapped. They don't exist anymore. Only difference being what represents electrons. There, it's the snot. Here, it's these little fishies. Oh yeah, it keeps the fisherman inspiration, but expands it into ice fishing. One last commenter on the variant video mentioned how it could reference Pizzly bears, polar bear, grizzly, hybrids, when polar bears are forced to move south and breeded with grizzlies. It was a coincidence then, but it's on purpose now. Also, last thing, the microscope is a Danish invention, and since Denmark is really close to Germany, it counts. So I'm starting off with a basic shape. It's gonna have multiple segments that reference tardigrade segments. If you watch the regional variants video, there's another line in there, Keltician Grimmsnarl, that follow a very similar thing, like idea. Big, fluffy, tanky guys, and fairly detailed. I had to size up the head because it looked too small and therefore kind of looked like a legendary-ish. Maybe not a legendary, but like a pseudo-legendary. So I had to just make it bigger. Super little fishy guys. And the pattern keeps getting lighter and lighter as a reference to it being a polar bear grizzly hybrid. So here's Grizzlo, from Grizzly, Slow, something that it is, and Snow, a water ice type. These Pokemon are slow but mighty. They can survive 4 months without food and can survive any temperature, though they prefer the cold. If it becomes too much for their cubs, it allows them to stay in the warmth of their fur coat. Its signature move, Fluffy Fort, makes Grizzly fluff up its fur and braces for impact. It works as Protect, but if hit by a physical move, the attacker's speed is lowered by 2 stages and its attack by 1. Side by side, yeah, we both know which is better. So, yeah, here it is. Something I forgot to mention earlier is that each final stage represents a different type of stat. Vermabon is incredibly fast, so it represents speed. Two-Fix represents the attacking stats because even though it's a special attacker, those horns look like they can deal some physical damage. And Grizzlo represents the defensive stats. I mean, look at it. It's a wall. But that's a wrap. This is by far the longest video I've made, but it was a lot of fun. Remember to hop into the Discord, and once again, thank you for 1,000 subs. See ya, and stay safe.